Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford for the paper talk, and it's actually freezing. It might not look, sunny, but it's absolutely brass. But we soldier on. As you'd expect, a lot of the stories this morning centre around last night's game, the morning after the night before. Manchester United just about getting past Brighton in the Premier League. Made hard work of it, but we got the 3 points, and that's pretty much all that matters. There was a little bit of an intrigue, though, according to some reports. Apparently, Bruno Fernandes and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had a bit of a spat during the game, and I use the word spat very lightly. You know, I'm not talking about Jamie Carragher here. I'm talking about the type of spat where you have a little bit of a row. Reports this morning doing the rounds, I think it's in the Manchester Evening News and the Mirror and a few other papers, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Bruno Fernandes appear to find themselves in a heated spat during United's win over Brighton on Sunday. There was no one more frustrated with the game than the Portuguese playmaker Fernandes, who appeared to give his thoughts to his manager while still on the pitch. The Manchester Evening News claimed that Fernandes gave Solskjaer Fernandes gave Solskjaer a penny for his thoughts not long before the break, while the Norwegian was trying to shout something at Luke Shaw. I mean, yeah, that's. I mean, the headline. There's been a bit of a row and a spat, and a bit of a heated exchange, however you want to word it, but that's normal. That is what goes on in football matches. It doesn't matter whether you're playing the Dog and Duck versus the Red Lion or, Brazil versus Germany in the World Cup final. Players and managers and players are going to shout to each other. That's what happens in football. We saw it so many times over the years. How many times did Sir Alex Ferguson shout and berate some of his players on the pitch at Old Trafford? How many times did some of the players now and again give it him back? I know you don't think of that when you think of Sir Alex Ferguson, but I've seen players shout back to Fergie. It happened, remember Ronaldo once at Wigan, for example, giving it him back on the pitch. So this whole idea that, we had it a few weeks ago, didn't we, with Maguire and Rashford, and they both came out and said, it's nothing, it's a storm in a teacup, and now it seems a little bit more like that as well. A certain eminent journalist tweeted yesterday, Solskjaer getting angrier and seemed to be shouting something at Shaw, but Fernandes seems to be giving something back. I mean, yeah, this kind of thing happens, and I don't think there's anything in that in terms of, have they fallen out? Is there something we need to be worried about? As Manchester United fans, I think it's simply player and manager speak during football match. Shock, horror, stop the press. Amazing. Absolute scenes, as the kids say. In other news, in other sort of more relevant news, following last night's game, a lot of the talk was, of course, around Mason Greenwood. He's been getting a lot of praise. He obviously got his goal. Deserved it as well. His performances recently have been fantastic, and I think it's, the only sort of negative or slightly concerning thing about Mason Greenwood this season is he hasn't been scoring as many goals as he was last season. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been impressed with him, and he says that he's adding another dimension to his game. Speaking about Mason Greenwood, who obviously got the winner yesterday, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said that he literally said, he's adding another dimension to his game. Talking about the game as well, he said, you don't want to be in those positions 1-0 down. It was a sloppy mistake in midfield. We don't stop the cross. We don't defend the cross. So we gave ourselves work to do. I think we've done that so many times this season that the team doesn't panic. We keep going behind, but, we've come from behind so many times, as Ollie said, that it's not really an issue. We know we have to build momentum. The ball has to move quicker. We have to move more in tandem with each other. The 2 goals we scored were good goals, and we deserved to win the game, we felt, at the end. Asked about Greenwood, he said, whether it was his favourite goal by Greenwood today, he said, yeah, definitely, I'm so happy for him. I'm pleased with his overall performance. Again, very good. He was bright, tidy, clean on the ball, hit the post, and one that went over the bar, maybe deflected in the second half. When he gets those goals, we know that he's going to add another dimension to his game. I'm very, very pleased. I mean, Mason Greenwood is a phenomenal talent. Anyone that's seen him as well at sort of youth and academy level will know he's not a right winger, he's not a right-sided forward, he's a striker. That's where he prefers to play, and if you look at his goal yesterday, that was a striker's goal. He was in the box, got his head on something, and maybe that's where he goes long term. We know we've got injury problems. Anthony Martial is out. Also, Marcus Rashford went off it with a bit of a knock yesterday as well. So maybe Mason Greenwood could get some more chances. I know Marcus Rashford plays on the left, of course, but we are short in attack. Maybe Mason Greenwood will get some more chances down the middle. Obviously, we've got Edinson Cavani, but he's 34 years old. He's missed about 8 of the last 10 games as well through injury. So it could be that that's the opportunity as well. Bruno Fernandes has also been praising Mason Greenwood. He says, what everyone has to know is Mason is a young player. Now everyone starts to know that he is, the chances he has. Hang on a minute. What everyone has to know is Mason is a young player. Well, we know that. What everyone starts to know is he is, the chances he has, so it starts to become more difficult for him. It's normal and it's part of his development, and he will learn from here. It doesn't matter how many goals he scores. The most important thing for us is it's still to help the team, and he's doing his best because it's us as a team that matters. I mean, he's completely right. Also, Rio Ferdinand singing his praises, saying that's a striker's instinct there. If you question him, is he a striker or not? The kid's a striker. That movement alone tells you. A lot of players would have just waited for the ball and not got on the end of it. You move first and get on the end of the ball. I was pleased with Greenwood about his all-round game. He hasn't had the luck this season in front of goal, 2 league goals, 6 in all competitions, but his actual movement today, the way he retained possession of the ball, he didn't get the ball a lot of the times when he could have, and that's something Ollie might need to look at. He's making unbelievable runs. He just goes on and on and on. I won't read the whole quote, but he goes on and on to praise Mason Greenwood, and you can understand why, because Mason Greenwood, despite it not being a great performance by Manchester United, it was a very good performance by Mason Greenwood. And there's reports now saying, is this giving Ollie something to think about if we are going to pursue Erling Haaland? I think the Express have got a story saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer faces Mason Greenwood conundrum amid Erling Haaland pursuit, because obviously United are interested in Erling Haaland. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows him from his days at Molde. We tried to sign him a couple of years ago from RB Salzburg. That didn't happen. Now we could be in for him again. If we do want him, it's going to cost around 120 million quid. A couple of reporters saying, well, why not stick with Mason Greenwood? Is Mason Greenwood in the same class as Erling Haaland? At the moment, probably not. I think that's safe to say. But Mason Greenwood could reach the levels of Erling Haaland. I think he could. I think their ceiling is probably around the same. I think one's just a little bit ahead in terms of his development and what he's doing. They're both phenomenal talents. Yes, Erling Haaland is scoring lots more goals and he's probably the better player at the minute, but Mason Greenwood could get to that standard. I think he could. I think he's that good, Mason Greenwood. And this is some suggestions, not just because of a goal against Brighton, but just because of the player that Mason Greenwood is and the fact that he has got youth on his side, that maybe that's giving Ole Gunnar Solskjaer pause for thought. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Erling Haaland. We know that Mino Raiola has been doing the rounds. He's been trying to flog him to, I think he's been doing the rounds in Spain, Real Madrid, Barcelona. There's talk of Chelsea, ourselves, maybe even the Scousers and Manchester City being interested in him, although Pep Guardiola poured a little bit of cold water on that, saying they didn't have the money for him or for a striker, which I think is a load of rubbish. Manchester City have unlimited funds. We all know that, so I think he was talking nonsense there. But we'll have to wait and see. Also on the United injury front, Eric Bailly tested positive for COVID on international duty. Fantastic. How many more dramas can we have for international duty? Eric Bailly gets COVID. Anthony Martial picks up a knock as well. It's just, it never ends. Even Mason Greenwood, I was glad he was back in the team because he pulled out the under-21s. I was a little bit worried about him. But Ollie was talking about the goalkeeping situation. Dean Henderson started yesterday, did okay. A couple of mistakes, if I'm being brutally honest. There was one mistake in particular where he dropped the ball, but we won, and so you can't really fault him too much. And now Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has a decision to make for the Thursday night game in the Europa against Granada, and he said, with Dean and David's situation, I know it's something that will create headlines and fish and chip wrapping paper in a little while. Showing his age now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When newspapers used to be the wrapping for fish and chips, you probably don't, I do. But now I've got 2 great goalkeepers, and it's about now to find games that both of them will play. Not the same game, of course, because that would be mental. But both of them deserve to play more than what they do, and it's just a decision I have to make every time. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, of course, he's right what he's saying there. We've almost got 2 number ones. David De Gea has been a great servant for Manchester United over the years. We've spoken about this extensively on the channel, and I think we've got a debate coming up between myself, Adam McCall and Joe Smith as well, because some of us think that David De Gea should be number 1, or some of them, I should say, think David De Gea should be number 1. I think it should be Dean Henderson, or others think it should be Dean Henderson, so we're going to have a bit of a debate. But we'll wait and see what happens with that one. In terms of transfers, there isn't a lot happening. There's the old Erling Haaland one doing the rounds. There's also talk that maybe we could be in for Andre Silva. He could be an alternative striker, obviously, for Eintracht Frankfurt, doing bits in Germany. His goal-scoring record in Germany is ridiculous. I think he's got something like, if I can just find it, it's something like, 22 goals in 25 Bundesliga appearances with 5 assists to boot, in case you're wondering about that. 25 years old. He is a little bit older than the likes of Erling Haaland and Mason Greenwood, if you want to throw him into that mix as well. But obviously doing the business, again though, it's mega money. There's people talking around a figure of around £100 million. So if we did want to go for Andre Silva, we'd have to break the bank to get him. And he isn't a player that's been linked very heavily with Manchester United. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. In fact, I'm actually underplaying that one. It's about 110 million pounds, according to some reports. So we'll see what happens with Andre Silva. We'll see what happens with Erling Haaland. We'll see what happens as well with the injury updates to Marcus Rashford, who I think he had a little issue yesterday. Went down a tunnel as soon as he come off. So if we've got any updates there, we'll give them to you. Make sure you stay in tune to the channel. We'll have loads of good stuff coming up. We'll have the Paddock podcast later on. We'll have the Premier League P-Take as well with Joe Smith and Adam McCullough. And later on this week, we'll be looking towards the Europa League game, the mouth-watering clash against Granada. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the News at Old Trafford. The paper talk is still freezing. Thanks for watching.